1. Alright, let's dive deeper into this 1971 Ford Pinto that's currently up for sale on Craigslist for $4,600. This classic hatchback is certainly an interesting find for automotive enthusiasts and collectors alike. With its 2.0L four-cylinder engine and four-speed manual transmission, it offers a genuine hands-on driving experience that's becoming increasingly rare in today's automotive landscape. The seller claims this Pinto is a special edition model, which adds some intriguing value. It comes equipped with factory rear bumper guards, a rear spoiler, and factory mag wheels, all features that enhance its aesthetic appeal and potentially its collectability. The odometer shows a mere 37,500 miles, which, if accurate, is remarkably low for a vehicle of this age. According to the listing, this Pinto has been well maintained over the years. It's reportedly always been kept in a garage, which can significantly reduce wear and tear from the elements. The car was repainted once about 30 years ago, but still maintains its original brown color. This kind of care and preservation is exactly what collectors and enthusiasts look for in a classic vehicle. The seller states that the car runs well and is very clean, with all manuals included. Another plus for collectors. They've also mentioned a recent service and a new battery, which suggests that some effort has been made to keep the car in good working order. However, it's important to remember that this is a 50-year-old vehicle. While it may be in excellent condition for its age, potential buyers should be prepared for the quirks and maintenance needs that often come with classic cars. It would be wise to inspect the vehicle thoroughly or have it checked by a professional mechanic familiar with vintage Fords before making a purchase. The Ford Pinto, while infamous for some of its safety issues, remains an important part of automotive history. This particular model, being from 1971, represents the very first year of Pinto production, which could make it especially interesting to collectors. The seller seems quite serious about the sale, firmly stating the price and location, and explicitly requesting no trades or text messages. They're located in American Canyon, California, for those in the area who might be interested. In conclusion, for the right buyer, perhaps a Ford enthusiast, a collector of 1970s Americana, or someone looking for a unique project car, this 1971 Pinto could be a fascinating find. As always with classic cars, it's crucial to do your homework, inspect the vehicle carefully, and understand what you're getting into. But for those who appreciate the charm and history of cars like the Pinto, this could be an opportunity to own a well-preserved piece of automotive history. 2. We're taking a look at a real gem from the past, a 1961 Nash Metropolitan Coupe that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $9,000. This little beauty is a testament to the unique styling of the 1950s and early 60s, and it's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. Let's dive into the details of this charming piece of automotive history. Under the hood, you'll find the original 1500cc four-cylinder Austin engine paired with a 3-speed manual transmission. That's right, it's a 3-on-the-tree setup, folks. This powertrain might not win any drag races, but it's perfect for cruising and showing off at car meets. The seller has clearly put some work into this Metropolitan. The wheels have been cleaned and powder-coated, and it's riding on 5 brand-new radial tires. The floorboards are in good condition and have been treated with insulation and a new rubber floor mat. In 2022, the interior got a refresh with new upholstery and headliner in near-original patterns, done by Chester Rabe, a nice touch for the purists out there. Mechanically, this Nash has seen some recent attention too. The heater valve, exhaust system, rear spring bushings, and shock absorbers have all been replaced. The braking system has been overhauled with new components, bearings, and seals on all wheels. The seller reports that it runs well, which is always good news for a car of this vintage. Now let's talk about the condition. The seller describes it as good, and with an odometer reading of 94,959 miles, it's clear this little Nash has seen its fair share of road. The red paint looks decent in the photos, but as with any 60-year-old car, you'll want to inspect it closely in person. One cool bonus: it comes with Oregon SP license plates, which means no need for stickers. The seller is also throwing in a tow bar and lights, which could be handy for taking this compact classic to shows. It's worth noting that the seller seems pretty fed up with scammers, So if you're seriously interested, be prepared for a no-nonsense transaction. Cash in hand is the way to go here. Overall, this 1961 Nash Metropolitan looks like a fun little classic that's been cared for and improved in key areas. It's not perfect, no 60-year-old car is. But for the right enthusiast, this could be a great addition to the garage. Just remember, with classics like these, you're not just buying a car, you're buying a piece of automotive history. 3. All right, let's dive deeper into this 1980 Chevrolet Corvette that's currently up for sale on Craigslist for $13,500. This isn't just any old Corvette. We're looking at a true survivor with a fascinating history. It's a one-owner vehicle that's been in the careful hands of a lady owner since it rolled off the lot, and it's spent its entire life in the sunny, rust-free climate of California. What really sets this Corvette apart is its originality. We're talking about a car that's never been restored and still wears its original silver paint and interior. In the world of classic cars, originality is king, and this Vetta has it in spades. With only 48,000 original miles on the odometer, it's clear this car has been used sparingly and treated with respect. Under the hood, you'll find the classic Chevy V8 engine, paired with an automatic transmission for smooth cruising. The seller reports that it runs excellently, which is a testament to its maintenance over the years. It's equipped with all the creature comforts you'd want in a classic sports car: AC, power steering, power windows, and locks. The FM radio still works, which is a nice touch for those who appreciate period-correct details. One of the coolest features of this Corvette is its glass T-tops. They give you the option of open-air motoring when the weather's nice, but provide better protection from the elements than a full convertible. The alloy rims add a touch of sportiness to the overall look. Now, I want to be completely honest here. While the seller describes the condition as good, and it certainly appears to be well maintained, we have to remember that this is a 40-year-old car. It's not going to be perfect, and potential buyers should expect some signs of age and use. However, the seller has been proactive in addressing maintenance issues. They've recently installed new tires, replaced the plugs and wires, put in a new radiator, refreshed the brakes, changed all the fluids, and even rebuilt the carburetor. This kind of preventative maintenance is exactly what you want to see in a classic car. For enthusiasts looking for a piece of American automotive history, this Corvette represents a fantastic opportunity. It's increasingly rare to find examples that have been owned by the same person since new, especially ones that have been so well cared for. The clean title is another plus, indicating this car has likely lived a drama-free life. In conclusion, if you're in the market for a classic Corvette that's been lovingly maintained and still retains much of its original charm, this 1980 model deserves serious consideration. It's a chance to own a piece of Chevrolet history that's been cherished for 4 decades. Just remember, with classic cars, it's always wise to inspect in person or have a professional inspection done before making a purchase. 4. We're diving into a real gem from the golden age of American automobiles, a 1964 Chrysler New Yorker that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $10,500. This beauty is a testament to the era of big, bold, and luxurious American cars. Let's start with the heart of this beast, a 413 cubic inch V8 engine paired with a push-button automatic transmission. This powertrain was the epitome of luxury and performance in its day, and it's still capable of cruising down the highway at 70 mph without breaking a sweat. What makes this New Yorker special is its amazing one-family ownership history. It spent its first 90,000 miles in Colorado, away from salt-covered roads, and then moved to Wisconsin in the late 90s, where it's been rarely driven and well cared for. With only 92,000 miles on the odometer, this car has clearly been cherished. The seller reports that the car runs and drives wonderfully, which is impressive for a vehicle of this age. It's been stored indoors its entire life, which has helped preserve its condition. The brakes work great, and it's riding on brand new tires with less than 500 miles on them. Now, let's be honest about a few things. The carb could use some fine-tuning, especially for around-town driving. The right front window doesn't work, apparently a long-standing issue, and the dash clock is out. The AC would need servicing, but that's pretty common for cars of this vintage. The interior is original and, remarkably, has never seen rodents, a big plus for any classic car enthusiast. The exterior paint is mostly original with some repairs done over the years. It hasn't been buffed or corrected in the repaired areas, so there's potential for improvement if the new owner desires. One of the most impressive aspects of this New Yorker is its lack of rust. The seller states there's no rust through anywhere, which is quite rare for a car of this age, especially one that spent time in Wisconsin. This New Yorker represents a great opportunity for someone looking for a drivable classic that can be enjoyed as is or used as a base for further restoration. It's a slice of American automotive history that still has plenty of life left in it. 5. We're taking a look at a real piece of 70s American muscle, a 1973 Pontiac Grand Prix that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $8,000. This big, bold beauty is a testament to an era when cars were all about style and power. Let's dive into the details of this Grand Prix. Under the hood, you'll find a 400 cubic inch V8 with a 4-barrel carb, which was rebuilt about 40,000 miles ago. The previous owner added a mild cam during the rebuild, which likely gives this engine a bit more grunt than stock. With an automatic transmission, this car is all about cruising in style. Now, let's talk about condition. This Grand Prix has seen some miles, with the odometer showing around 138,000. However, the seller seems confident in its reliability, stating they'd drive it across the country tomorrow. That's a pretty strong vote of confidence for a nearly 50-year-old car. The exterior was repainted years ago, so it's not a fresh job, but it should still present well. Inside, the interior is described as pretty good with a great headliner, great dash, and good seats. That's not too shabby for a car of this age. However, it's not all perfect. The seller mentions that the car could use a new trunk pan and trunk weather stripping to rubber molding. These are common issues with cars of this vintage, but potential buyers should be aware that some work might be needed in this area. On the plus side, the car has had some recent maintenance. The seller mentions a newer radiator, power steering, brakes, and battery. These updates should help with the car's reliability and drivability. It's worth noting that this is a second-owner car, which often bodes well for classic vehicles. Fewer owners usually means more consistent care and maintenance over the years. The asking price of $8,000 or $7,095 as listed in the description seems reasonable for a drivable classic in this condition, especially considering the engine rebuild and recent maintenance. In conclusion, this 1973 Pontiac Grand Prix looks like a solid example of 70s American luxury and performance. It's not a perfect show car, but it seems to be a well-maintained driver that could be enjoyed as is or serve as a great starting point for further restoration. If you're in the market for a classic that you can actually drive and enjoy, this Grand Prix could be worth a look. As always with classics, a thorough in-person inspection is recommended before making a purchase. 6. We're diving into a real gem from the golden age of American performance, a 1968 Pontiac Firebird that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $14,000. Now, buckle up, because this one's a bit of a project, but it's got some serious potential. First things first, this Firebird is a non-running project car. But don't let that scare you off, because the seller has already put in some serious work and upgrades. We're looking at a 350 V8 engine, which is a great starting point for some serious power. The seller has installed front disc brakes, tubular upper and lower A-arms, new tie rod ends, and a fresh Posey rear end. They've also added new leaf springs and rebuilt the drive shaft. Now here's where it gets interesting. The engine has some performance upgrades, including rebuilt heads, a custom cam, and Scorpion rockers. There's a new aluminum radiator and electric fan set waiting to be installed, along with a new water pump. The seller's also throwing in a set of Patriot headers still in the box. The body seems to be in decent shape. The seller claims they haven't seen any rust, which is always good news for a car of this vintage. All the glass is present, and there's a new dual scoop hood still boxed up, along with the original hood. The interior is described as original and complete, including the steering wheel. Now let's be real here. This is a project car, and it's going to need some work. The engine isn't running, and a lot of the new parts still need to be installed. You're looking at some serious wrench time to get this Firebird roadworthy. But for the right enthusiast, this could be a dream project. The odometer shows 80,141 miles, but on a project car like this, that number doesn't mean much. The title is clean, but it's on non-op status and needs a DMV VIN verification to get a pink slip. At $14,000 or $15,000 as mentioned in the description, this Firebird isn't cheap for a non-running project. But considering all the new parts and upgrades that come with it, it could be a good deal for someone looking to build their dream '68 Firebird. In conclusion, this 1968 Pontiac Firebird is a serious project that's not for the faint of heart. But for the right person with the skills, time, and passion, this could be the start of something truly special. Just remember, you're buying a project, not a turnkey classic. If you're up for the challenge, this Firebird could be your ticket to muscle car heaven. 7. We're checking out a 1981 Chevrolet Malibu that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $12,000. Now, this isn't your average '81 Malibu. This bad boy's got some serious modern muscle under the hood. Let's start with the heart of this beast. The sellers swapped out the original engine for a 6.0-liter LS motor, paired with a 4L60 transmission. That's a potent combination that's sure to give this Malibu some serious get up and go. With only 80,000 miles on this powertrain, it's still got plenty of life left in it. The seller claims it's fast, and with that LS motor, I don't doubt it one bit. Now let's talk about the body. This is the last year of the G-Body Malibu, which has a pretty strong following among car enthusiasts. The seller states that there's no rust or bondo, and the rear quarters are in good shape with all original metal. That's pretty impressive for a 40-year-old car, especially one from Chicago where rust is often a major issue. The car's rolling on 22-inch rims, which gives it a more modern stance. It's definitely not stock, but it's a look that a lot of people dig on these G-bodies. However, it's not all perfect. The seller admits that the interior could use some work. They don't go into specifics, so potential buyers should be prepared to put some effort, and probably money, into sprucing up the cabin. One thing to note is that this Malibu is far from original. If you're looking for a numbers-matching stock example of an '81 Malibu, this isn't it. But if you're into resto mods or just want a classic body with modern power, this could be right up your alley. The asking price of $12,000 seems reasonable given the LS swap and the apparently solid body. However, as always with modified classics, it's crucial to inspect the car thoroughly and possibly have a mechanic check out the engine swap to ensure everything's been done properly. In conclusion, this 1981 Chevy Malibu is an interesting blend of classic style and modern performance. It's not a show car, and it's not for purists, but for someone looking for a unique, powerful cruiser, it could be a great option. 8. We're taking a look at a true behemoth from the golden age of American automobiles. A 1971 Pontiac Granville that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $9,000. This big, beautiful boat is a perfect example of when cars were all about size, style, and raw power. Let's dive into what makes this Granville special. Under the hood, you'll find Pontiac's legendary 455 cubic inch V8 engine, paired with a 4-barrel carburetor. This power plant was known for its impressive torque, making these big cars move with surprising authority. Backing up this monster motor is the robust TH400 automatic transmission, known for its durability and smooth shifts. The seller reports that the odometer shows 98,000 miles, which isn't too bad for a car that's over half a century old. They've owned the car for over 10 years, which often bodes well for classic vehicles. Long-term ownership usually means consistent care and maintenance. The exterior is described as being in good condition and sports a green paint job. Now, green might not be everyone's first choice, but on a car of this era, it can look pretty sharp. The listing doesn't go into detail about the paint condition, so you'd want to inspect it closely in person. Inside, we don't have much information about the interior condition. Given the car's age, some wear and tear would be expected, but without more details, it's hard to say for sure. One positive note is that the seller mentions many newer parts have been added over the years. This suggests that they've been actively maintaining and potentially improving the car during their ownership. However, they don't specify which parts, so you'd want to get more information on that. Now, let's be real here. This is a 50-year-old car, and it's going to have some quirks and potentially need some work. The seller's brief description doesn't give us a lot to go on regarding any potential issues or needed repairs, so a thorough inspection would be crucial before making a purchase. At $9,000, this Granville could be a decent deal for the right buyer, especially if it's in good running condition and doesn't need major work. These big Pontiacs aren't as common as some other classics from the era, which adds to their appeal for collectors. 9. We're diving into a true icon of American luxury, a 1970 Cadillac DeVille that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $9,000. This big, beautiful coupe is a perfect representation of the era when Cadillac was the undisputed king of the road. Let's start with the basics. This DeVille is sporting the massive 472 cubic inch V8 engine that Cadillac was famous for in this era. Paired with an automatic transmission, this powertrain was all about smooth, effortless power. With 90,000 miles on the odometer, this Caddy has seen some use, but for a 50-year-old car, that's not too shabby. Now, let's talk about condition. The seller describes the body as very straight, which is always good to hear on a classic car. However, they do mention that it needs paint. So while the bones are good, you're looking at investing in a new paint job if you want this DeVille to really shine. The current color is listed as gold, which was a popular choice for Cadillacs of this era. Inside, we're looking at the original interior. The seller doesn't go into detail about its condition, but original interiors can be a mixed bag in cars of this age. It could be well preserved or it might need some work. You'd definitely want to inspect it closely. One big plus for this DeVille is its long-term ownership. The current owner has had the car since April 15, 1999. That's over 20 years. Long-term ownership often means consistent care and maintenance, which can be crucial for classic cars. The seller also mentions that the car has never been wrecked and is very clean. That's promising, but as always with classics, you'll want to inspect it thoroughly in person. At $9,000, this DeVille could be a decent deal for the right buyer. It's not a show-ready car given the need for paint, but it could be a great starting point for a restoration project or even just a cool cruiser with some patina. In conclusion, this 1970 Cadillac DeVille represents a slice of automotive history when American luxury cars were all about size, comfort, and presence. It's not perfect, and you'll need to budget for paint at the very least. But for someone looking to get into classic Cadillacs, this could be an interesting opportunity. As always with classics, make sure to inspect thoroughly and maybe bring along a mechanic if you're serious about buying. 10. We're diving into a real gem from the muscle car era, a 1973 Dodge Dart 340 Sport that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $12,500. This little green machine is a perfect blend of compact size and potent performance that Dodge was famous for in the early 70s. Let's start with what makes this Dart special. It's packing the desirable 340 cubic inch V8, which was a serious performer in its day. The seller mentions it's been upgraded with a small cam and headers, which should give it a nice bump in power and a great sound to boot. Backing up this engine is an automatic transmission with a shift kit installed, promising some snappy gear changes. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. This particular Dart Sport is apparently one of only about 3,000 made with a fold-down back seat and factory sunroof. That's a rare combo that definitely adds to the car's appeal and potentially its value. The sunroof does need some work though. The door is missing a couple of small parts and needs to be installed. The seller has put some serious work into this Dart over the past couple of years. We're talking new rear brakes with fresh brake lines, a new alternator, shocks, tires, and one new tie rod with a front-end alignment. The transmission has been fully serviced by a professional shop, and it's had a fresh oil change. All this recent maintenance bodes well for the car's drivability. Speaking of which, the seller claims it runs great and tracks straight down the road. That's always good to hear with a classic car. The odometer shows 51,000 miles, but as is often the case with classics, the seller can't confirm if that's the actual mileage. The body appears to be in good condition based on the seller's description, and it's sporting a green paint job. However, without more detailed information or clear pictures, it's hard to comment on the quality of the paint or any potential bodywork needs. At $2,500, this Dart seems reasonably priced, especially considering its rarity and the recent work that's been done. It's not a show car, but it sounds like a solid driver that could be enjoyed as is or serve as a great starting point for further restoration. In conclusion, this 1973 Dodge Dart 340 Sport represents a unique opportunity to own a piece of Mopar history. It's got power rarity and seems to be in good running condition. As always with classics, a thorough in-person inspection is recommended before making a purchase. But for the right buyer, this could be a really cool addition to the garage. 11. We're taking a look at a true land yacht from the late 70s, a 1979 Lincoln Mark V that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $5,800. This big, beautiful boat is a perfect example of when American luxury cars were all about size, style, and comfort. Let's dive into what makes this Mark V special. First off, it's showing just 81,000 miles on the odometer, which is pretty low for a car that's over 40 years old. The seller describes it as beautiful and in excellent condition, which is always good to hear for a classic like this. Under the hood, you'll find Lincoln's big V8 engine. While the seller doesn't specify which engine it is, these cars typically came with either a 400 or 460 cubic inch V8, both of which were known for smooth, effortless power rather than outright performance. It's paired with an automatic transmission, as you'd expect in a luxury car of this era. The seller reports that the windows, locks, and air conditioning all work great, which is a big plus for a car of this vintage. Often these systems can be troublesome in older cars, so it's good to hear they're functioning well. However, it's not all perfect. The radio only works on AM, which might be an issue if you're planning on using this as a regular driver. Also, the fuel gauge doesn't work, which could be a bit of an inconvenience. But hey, that's part of the charm of owning a classic, right? One thing that adds to this car's appeal is its ownership history. The previous owner had it for 20 years, and the current seller has owned it for a year. Long-term ownership often indicates that a car has been well cared for. The seller states that the car needs nothing and is very solid, which suggests it's ready to drive and enjoy as is. However, as always with classics, it's a good idea to inspect the car thoroughly in person, or have a mechanic look it over before making a purchase. At $5,800, this Mark V seems reasonably priced for a car in excellent condition. These big Lincolns aren't as sought after as some other classics, which can make them a great value for buyers looking for a taste of 70s luxury. 12. We're diving into a true land yacht from the twilight of the big American car era, a 1978 Chrysler Newport that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $8,500. This big, beautiful boat is a testament to a time when cars were all about comfort, style, and presence. Let's start with the heart of this beast, a 360 cubic inch V8 engine paired with an automatic transmission. This powertrain was all about smooth, effortless cruising, perfect for eating up highway miles in comfort. The seller reports that it runs great and doesn't use oil, which is always good to hear in a car of this vintage. Now here's where it gets interesting. This Newport has only 44,114 original miles on the clock. That's incredibly low for a car that's over 4 decades old. The seller bought it from Arkansas 3 years ago, where it was kept in a climate-controlled garage, which explains its impressive preservation. The body is described as being in very good condition overall, with only a few minor issues. There's a crease along the left rear quarter panel and a few small dents, which is pretty typical for a 46-year-old car. The only rust spot mentioned is a small area at the bottom of the left front fender. The vinyl top, often a trouble spot on cars of this era, is reported to be in very good condition. Inside, the interior is described as good, with only a small crack in the dash noted. The AM/FM radio with cassette player is said to work and sound great. A nice touch for cruising in vintage style. However, it's not all perfect. The ignition system has been replaced, though the seller has most of the original parts. There's also that small rust spot to consider. And while the few dents and creases might not bother some, they're worth noting for potential buyers. At $8,500, this Newport seems reasonably priced given its low mileage and overall good condition. It's worth remembering that 1978 was the last year for these full-size Chryslers before downsizing hit, which adds to its historical interest. In conclusion, this 1978 Chrysler Newport looks like a well-preserved example of late 70s American luxury. It's not perfect, but it seems to be in remarkably good shape for its age. If you're in the market for a classic cruiser that'll turn heads and provide a smooth, comfortable ride, this Newport could be worth checking out. As always, a thorough in-person inspection is recommended before making a purchase. 13. We're taking a look at a bit of an oddball in the Chevelle world, a 1972 Chevrolet Chevelle four-door sedan that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $6,500. Now, this isn't your typical muscle car Chevelle, but it's got a charm all its own. Let's dive into what makes this Chevelle interesting. First off, it's been in storage for about 30 years, which explains its surprisingly good condition. The seller describes it as having no rust and solid floors, which is always great news for a car of this vintage. It's sporting a green paint job, which gives it a classic 70s vibe. Under the hood, you'll find a straight-six engine, not the V8 that most people associate with Chevelle. This is paired with a 3-speed manual transmission with the shifter on the floor, which should make for an engaging driving experience. The odometer shows 142,000 miles, but given its long storage, those miles are likely from long ago. Now, here's where it gets a bit tricky. While the seller says the car runs, it does need some work. It's got new brakes, which is good, but it needs brake line work. The fuel system also needs attention, with a new fuel tank and lines required. On the plus side, the carburetor has been rebuilt. The seller describes the car as looking great and potentially being a great cruiser. That's probably true, but it's important to note that you'll need to put some work and money into it before it's ready for regular cruising duty. At $6,500 or best offer, this Chevelle could be a decent deal for the right buyer. It's not the coveted SS model, and being a four-door with a 6-cylinder engine, it's not going to command the high prices of its more performance-oriented siblings. However, for someone looking for a unique classic cruiser project, this could be an interesting option. In conclusion, this 1972 Chevrolet Chevelle sedan represents an opportunity to own a piece of automotive history that's a bit off the beaten path. It's not perfect and will need some work, but it seems to be a solid starting point for a restoration or a unique daily driver project. As always with classics, especially those coming out of long-term storage, a thorough inspection is crucial before making a purchase. 14. I've got a real treat for you today, a 1972 Chevrolet Nova that's just hit Craigslist for $15,000. This isn't just any old Nova. We're talking about a piece of American muscle car history here. Under the hood, you'll find a robust 350 engine paired with a freshly rebuilt 350 transmission. That combination is bound to give you the power and reliability you're looking for in a classic ride. The seller reports that this Nova is in good condition, which is impressive for a car approaching its 50th birthday. With a clean title and an odometer reading of just 73,591 miles, it seems this beauty has been well cared for over the years. The rear-wheel drive setup and 273-gear rear end are going to give you that authentic, raw driving experience that we all crave from these classics. Now, let's talk aesthetics. This Nova comes with a custom paint job, which should make it stand out from the crowd at any car meet. It's an automatic transmission, so it's perfect for those who want to enjoy a relaxed cruise, or for newcomers to the classic car scene. I've got to level with you though. The seller mentions needing room in their garage. This could mean they're keen to sell, which might work in your favor if you're seriously interested. They claim it runs and drives great. But as always, I strongly recommend seeing and test driving the car in person before making any decisions. For Nova enthusiasts or anyone looking to dip their toes into the world of classic American muscle cars, this could be a fantastic opportunity. It's got the looks, the power, and apparently, the performance to boot. Just picture yourself behind the wheel, cruising down the highway, feeling like you've been transported back to the golden age of American automobiles. Remember, with classics like these, you're not just buying a car, you're investing in a piece of automotive history. So if you're in the market for a solid V8-powered classic sedan that embodies the spirit of the 70s, this 1972 Chevrolet Nova might just be the ride you've been waiting for. 15. We're taking a look at a real gem from the golden age of muscle cars, a 1969 Pontiac Firebird, currently listed for $13,000. This classic beauty is packing a 350 cubic inch V8 engine, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, a combination that's sure to get any car enthusiast's heart racing. The seller reports that this Firebird is in good condition, which is pretty impressive for a car that's over half a century old. It's got a clean title, which is always a plus when dealing with classics. The car is rear-wheel drive, as you'd expect from a muscle car of this era, and it's finished in a head-turning red paint job. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The seller says this Firebird runs and drives, and it's a numbers-matching car, which is a big deal for collectors and purists. But here's where I've got to be straight with you. The listing mentions that it comes with a new set of quarter panels, a new back bumper, floor panels, and a set of OEM front fenders. This suggests that there might be some bodywork needed, or perhaps these parts are for a restoration project. It's important to note that while the car is drivable, the inclusion of these replacement parts could indicate that there's some work to be done. This isn't necessarily a bad thing. It could be a great opportunity for someone looking to restore a classic Firebird to its former glory. The manual transmission will give you that raw, connected driving experience that muscle car enthusiasts crave. And let's be honest, there's something special about rowing through the gears in a powerful V8 coupe like this. As always, I'd recommend seeing the car in person and getting a thorough inspection before making any decisions. Ask about the history of the car, why the replacement parts are included, and if there's any work that still needs to be done. For $13,000, this could be a solid entry point into classic muscle car ownership, especially if you're handy with a wrench or looking for a project car. The 1969 Firebird is an iconic piece of American automotive history, and this one, with its matching numbers and manual transmission, could be a real find for the right buyer. Remember, with classic cars like this, you're not just buying a vehicle. You're buying a piece of history, a weekend project, and a conversation starter all rolled into one. So if you've been dreaming of cruising down the highway in a classic Pontiac, this '69 Firebird might just be your ticket to muscle car nirvana. 16. Let's talk about this 1966 Chevy Caprice that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $8,500. Now, I've got to be upfront with you. This isn't a car you're going to drive home today. The seller is honest about its condition, listing it as fair, and there are some significant issues we need to discuss. This Caprice is a two-door coupe with a 396 motor, which is a pretty desirable configuration. It's got matching numbers, which is always a plus for collectors. The body is blue and it's got a clean title, so that's good news on the paperwork front. However, let's get real about the condition. The seller clearly states that this car needs to be fully restored or used for parts. It doesn't drive, and while the engine and transmission aren't locked up, the rear end is seized. That's a serious issue that'll need addressing. The odometer is showing 217,192 miles, but it's broken, so the actual mileage is unknown. This Caprice is definitely a project car, and it's being sold as is. You'll need to tow it away, so factor that into your budget. The seller is firm about no low-ball offers, which suggests they know the value of these cars even in rough condition. For the right person, this could be an exciting restoration project. The '66 Caprice is a classic piece of American automotive history, and with that 396 engine, it could be a real powerhouse once restored. But make no mistake, this will be a significant undertaking. You're looking at a full restoration job here, from the drivetrain to the body and interior. If you're an experienced restorer or looking for a numbers-matching donor car for another project, this might be worth checking out. But if you're hoping for something you can cruise in this weekend, you'll want to look elsewhere. Remember, with project cars like this, it's crucial to inspect in person if possible. Check for rust, assess the body condition, and maybe bring along a mechanic to get a better idea of what you're getting into. In the end, this 1966 Chevy Caprice represents both a challenge and an opportunity. It's a chance to bring a classic American muscle car back to life, but it's going to take a lot of time, money, and effort. If you've got the skills and the passion for a serious restoration project, this could be your diamond in the rough. 17. We're checking out a real gem, a 1974 Pontiac Firebird Formula 400 that's currently up for grabs at $15,000. Let me tell you, this isn't your average classic car listing. The seller's description paints a picture of a car that's been through quite a journey. When they bought it in 2021, it was apparently in rough shape, but they've put in some serious work to transform it into a reliable driver. Now, it's sporting a stock 400 engine paired with a 7000 R4 overdrive transmission and a limited slip differential, a combo that should provide a great balance of power and efficiency. One of the biggest selling points here is the car's condition. The seller reports virtually no rust, which is pretty rare for a car of this age. The only mentioned rust is in the right rear quarter panel, and it's described as an easy fix. The underside is said to be in great shape, which is crucial for these classics. The interior is reported to be in good condition, with only minor things like sun visors needed to complete it. Recent upgrades include new tires, an alignment, new front and rear springs, and a host of new parts including a TCI shifter, water pump, gas tank, wiper motor, headers, and window regulators. Some cool features include a Bluetooth stereo and a rare 1970-only Formula hood. The firewall has been smoothed, making it ready for an aftermarket AC system if you want to add some modern comfort. Now, it's not perfect. There's no heat or AC currently, so keep that in mind if you're in the extreme climate. But the seller seems confident in its reliability, even mentioning they use it for their work commute. As always with classics, I'd recommend a thorough inspection before buying. But if everything checks out, this could be a fantastic opportunity to own a piece of muscle car history that's been thoughtfully updated for modern driving. Whether you want to keep improving it or enjoy it as is, this 74 Firebird Formula 400 sounds like it could be a real head-turner and a joy to drive. Just remember, it's still a 50-year-old car, so expect some quirks and be prepared for potential old car issues down the road. 18. We're taking a look at a real piece of automotive history, a 1966 Mercury Montclair that's up for grabs on Craigslist for $4,000. Now, I've got to be straight with you. This isn't a show-ready car, but it's got potential written all over it. This Montclair has been in the seller's family since it rolled off the lot back in '66, which is pretty cool. It's a red sedan with a V8 under the hood, specifically a 390 cubic inch engine that was rebuilt about 20,000 miles ago. The odometer shows 75,000 miles. But given its age, take that with a grain of salt. Now, let's talk condition. The seller lists it as fair and describes it as a small project. That's probably a fair assessment. The body is said to be clean and straight, which is a big plus for a car of this vintage. It's been garage kept for most of its life, which has likely helped preserve it. On the positive side, the seller just installed all new front brakes, from the master cylinder down to the brake drums. That's a significant bit of work already done for you. The car runs, which is always good news for a project car. However, there are some issues to address. The front and rear transmission seals need replacing, and it needs a new exhaust system. These aren't necessarily deal breakers, but they're jobs you'll need to factor into your budget and plans. The seller mentions it's been driven very little in the last 10 years and has been sitting in a garage. That could mean you're looking at some work to get all the systems up and running smoothly again. Sitting for long periods isn't great for cars, so expect to do some general maintenance and possibly replace some rubber components that may have degraded over time. For $4,000, this could be a great opportunity for someone looking to dip their toes into classic car ownership or restoration. The 66 Montclair is a cool piece of 60s Americana, and with its family history and mostly original condition, it's got a story to tell. Remember, this is a project car. It's not something you're going to drive home and show off at the local cruise night right away. But if you've got some mechanical skills and a passion for bringing old cars back to life, this Mercury could be a rewarding project. Just be sure to inspect it thoroughly in person before making any decisions. Look for hidden rust, check the frame, and maybe bring along a mechanic to give you a better idea of what you're getting into. 19. We're diving into a real gem from the golden age of American muscle, a 1971 Buick LeSabre that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist for $2,500. Let me tell you, this isn't your average classic car listing. This LeSabre is a true time capsule, folks. We're talking about a one-owner, low-mileage survivor with only 44,000 miles on the clock. The seller claims it's still wearing its original paint, which is a sunny yellow that'll turn heads wherever you go. Under the hood, you'll find a factory 455 cubic inch V8 paired with a turbo 400 transmission. That's a powertrain combo that'll make any muscle car fan's heart race. The seller says it runs and drives like new. No leaks, no smoke, no knocks or ticks. Apparently, it glides down the road like it just rolled off the showroom floor. Now, let's talk condition. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the details provided, it sounds like they're not exaggerating. This LeSabre spent most of its life in the dry desert of New Mexico before making its way to the Midwest. That means we're likely looking at a rust-free, Bondo-free body, a rare find for a 50-year-old car. The interior is described as clean as a pin, with carpets that look new, no rips or tears in the original seats, and a perfect headliner and dash. Even the AC works, though there's a minor issue with the flapper vent sometimes getting stuck. One of the coolest things about this car is its originality. In a world where so many classics have been modified or restored, finding one this original is like striking gold. It's a true representation of what these cars were like when they rolled off the assembly line. Now, I've got to be straight with you. A car this old will need some TLC to keep it running smoothly, and with that big 455 under the hood, it's going to be thirsty. But if you're looking for a classic that's easy to maintain and free from modern computerized complexities, this could be your ticket. Whether you want to keep it stock as a weekend cruiser, throw some custom wheels on it for a more modern look, or even, and I can't believe I'm saying this, use it as a demolition derby car like the seller suggests, this LeSabre offers a lot of possibilities. Remember, with classics like this, it's always a good idea to see it in person if you can. Check for any hidden issues and maybe bring along a mechanic who knows these old Buicks. 20. We're checking out a real piece of American automotive history. A 1970 Chevy El Camino that's up for grabs at $12,000. Now let me give you the lowdown on this classic muscle car utility vehicle hybrid. The seller's got this El Camino listed in good condition, and from the description, it sounds like they've put some work into it. We're looking at a fresh paint job in gray, new upholstery, and new tires. That's a good start for any classic car enthusiast. Under the hood, we've got a 350 cubic inch V8 engine, which the seller claims has no leaks. That's always good to hear, especially with older vehicles. It's paired with an automatic transmission, making it an easy cruiser. Now let's talk about some of the positives. The car comes with a clean title, which is always a plus when dealing with classics. All the lights are reported to be working, including headlights, turn signals, and brake lights. Most of the gauges are functional too, except for the gas gauge, so you'll need to keep an eye on your fuel the old-fashioned way. The odometer shows 30,000 miles, but with a car this old, it's hard to say if that's original or if it's rolled over. The seller doesn't specify, so that's something you'd want to ask about. Here's where I've got to be straight with you. While the seller is hyping this up as an investment piece, saying it will go up in value, that's not a guarantee. Yes, El Caminos are cool and collectible, but the classic car market can be unpredictable. Also, the listing doesn't mention anything about the car's mechanical condition beyond the engine not leaking. With a 50-year-old vehicle, you'll want to know about the transmission, suspension, brakes, and electrical system. Has it been restored? Maintained? These are questions you'd want to ask. The seller seems eager to move this El Camino, mentioning "must sell, must go" in the title. This could mean they're motivated to negotiate, but it could also indicate there might be issues they're not mentioning. In conclusion, this 1970 Chevy El Camino could be a cool project for the right person. It's got that classic muscle car look with the utility of a pickup. But remember, with any classic car, especially one this old, you're likely looking at ongoing maintenance and possibly some repairs.